The arrogant millionaire smirked at a poor little girl and sneered, "Play for me, and I'll adopt you." The guests burst into cruel laughter. But when she sat at the piano and began to play, the room went silent. And what followed changed everything. Edward Kane was one of the richest men in the city, known for his luxury cars, sprawling mansions, and towering ego. He thrived on attention. But while he wore wealth like a crown, his heart was hollow. His wife had left years ago, unable to endure his arrogance. His only son had cut ties, saying, "You love money more than people." Still, Edward cared little. Respect, he believed, could always be bought. One evening, Edward hosted a grand charity gala. Chandeliers sparkled, violins played, and guests in designer suits clinked champagne glasses. But the night wasn't truly about charity. For Edward, it was about flaunting wealth, making headlines, and watching others bow before him. As part of the evening's entertainment, children from a local orphanage were invited. They were lined up neatly, smiling nervously, waiting for instructions. Edward noticed one girl at the edge of the room. Her dress was plain, her shoes scuffed, her hair tied back with a faded ribbon. She looked painfully out of place. Her name was Clara. Edward smirked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You there, girl. Can you play the piano?" Clara nodded timidly. He chuckled, the crowd echoing his laughter. "Then play for me. If you impress me, I'll adopt you." Gasps and snickers rippled through the hall. To the wealthy guests, it was entertainment, a cruel joke. But to Clara, it was everything. Her heart pounded. This was more than a test. It was a chance at a home. She sat at the piano, her hands hovered, trembling. Guests whispered wagers. "She'll fail. She's just a poor orphan." Then Clara pressed the first key. The note rang clear, delicate, then another and another. Suddenly, her hands flew across the piano with breathtaking speed. The melody poured out like a storm, filled with sorrow, strength, and longing. The crowd fell silent. The laughter died. The child they mocked was no ordinary girl. She was a prodigy. Edward leaned forward, his smug smile fading. Something about the music gripped him. Then his chest tightened. He recognized the melody. It was the same song his late mother used to play when he was a boy, the lullaby that once comforted him at night. Memories flooded back, a childhood where he wasn't rich, but he was loved. Before pride, before greed, before loneliness. A tear rolled down his cheek. For the first time in decades, Edward Kane, the untouchable millionaire, was moved. When Clara finished, the hall erupted in thunderous applause. Guests rose to their feet, clapping, some crying. But Clara didn't beam with pride. Instead, she turned to Edward and whispered softly, "Did I play well enough to deserve a family?" The room froze. Her words pierced like a blade. She wasn't performing for applause. She was playing for love. Edward covered his face with trembling hands. The man who mocked her now wept openly. Choking on his pride, Edward stood before the crowd. He said, "Tonight, I thought I was rich, but this child showed me I am the poorest man here. I mocked her, but she gave me music that touched my soul. I will never laugh at innocence again." He walked to Clara and knelt and said, "I don't want to adopt you because of a performance. I want to adopt you because you reminded me what love feels like." The audience erupted in tears and applause, but Clara hesitated. "I don't want a father who adopts me out of pity. Will you still love me if I never play again?" Edward froze. For a moment, the room held its breath. Then he knelt lower, tears in his eyes. "Yes, I will love you for you. Not for your music, not for a performance, just you." And with that, Clara finally smiled. For the first time, she felt seen, not as an orphan, not as entertainment, but as a daughter. Edward kept his promise. He gave Clara a home, but more importantly, he gave her love. Their days were filled not with wealth, but with laughter, shared meals, and piano melodies that filled the mansion with warmth. The untouchable millionaire softened. He reconnected with his estranged son, humbled by the lesson a little girl had taught him. Clara grew into a world-renowned pianist, but she always said the greatest note she ever played was the note that opened her father's heart. They mocked her hunger. They doubted her worth. They laughed at her dream. But one child's music silenced arrogance, melted pride, and rebuilt a broken man. Because in the end, true wealth isn't found in gold or mansions or fame. It's found in love. And sometimes, all it takes is a single song.